sound the assembly, to give you all the best view over here, you're invited to rise up and actually at the end of the bench. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that tells all the soldiers within earshot it's time to assemble information. And so, what we're now about to do, even though at the mud fort with our on paper 25 6-pounder guns that come to a point underneath where the bricks are, even though our main job at a fort is to fire a cannon, even though the captain of our unit is Thomas Lee, he commands a span of provincial company of artillery, we're expected to be cross-trained to fight as soldiers with muskets. Why? Any ideas why we have to be trained to fight with muskets as well as cannon? What was that?
In case you get invaded.
That's right. We have to be ready for anything. Because if the enemy swings around the back door, we have to be able to more easily protect the side and rear of our fortifications. We have to be ready for anything. We might be ordered out of here. We are also remaining fortification on the eastern edge of Savannah named Fort Bullitt. So we have to be versatile. And finally, let's say it's the middle of the night. Let's say most of us are sleeping. At that moment, if the enemy decides to attack, if we're all sleeping at once, it takes all out. So someone has to be awake with a loaded musket and fixed bayonet at every moment, performing guard duty or sentry duty. So our skill with the musket is very important indeed. So what we're now going to do is drill upon the musket. Now, Mr. Egger, would you be so kind as to introduce these good people what type of musket we're carrying here today?
Absolutely. So what the majority of us here carry is the English pattern of short land musket. Notice short is in the name because there's also the English pattern of long land musket. The long land is about this much taller than the short land musket is. The British realized in the 1760s that we can cut that couple of inches off and the musket's still going to work pretty much the exact same way. Ballistics aren't really going to be affected by it, but it is much shorter, much more wieldy than those old big long land muskets are. As you can see on the musket, there is, where my middle finger is, the name of Tower, and under the hand, a crown with the letters GR for Georgius Rex, or King George. So we are borrowing these muskets from His Majesty the King. Please do not tell him. He should not know that we have these. But we are borrowing these muskets. These are not made here in the United States. They are made at the Tower Arsenal in London, the Tower of London. These are a 75 caliber musket, and they fire a 69 caliber round shot. A little ball like this. The ball is undersized, so it actually fits into the muzzle of the musket very easily. There's a lot of space between the ball and the barrel. It is a smooth bore, so it wobbles going in. That means it wobbles going out, too. How far away do you think I can hit a man-sized target with this shot? 6-foot silhouette.
50 yards.
50 yards?
30 yards.
30 yards? I can hit him in the buttons at 30 yards. I can still hit the man at 50 yards. I can still hit a man at 100 yards. Now at 100 yards, I'm not going to hit him on the buttons every single time. I'm going to hit him somewhere, either at his toes or at the top of his hat. Doesn't matter. At 100 yards, I'm still going to hit the target I'm aiming for. At 200 yards, I'm not going to hit the target I'm aiming for, the man I'm aiming for, but I'm going to hit somebody in that line. Because do you think I'm shooting at individual soldiers, or do you think I'm shooting at large groups of soldiers?
Large groups.
Large groups. We're fighting in lines. So it doesn't matter where I aim in the line, I'm still going to hit somebody out to about 200 yards. Even out to about 300 yards, this musket can still hit a target, but your hit rate's about 10%. So even out to 300 yards, the enemy can still take a 10% casualty rate with muskets like these. They are not wildly ineffective like we believe from movies like The Patriot, where they get 15 yards apart from each other and you can't hit the broadside of a barn. Soldiers are taught to use this musket and taught to aim this musket. British soldiers practice marksmanship with these muskets, so they know how to use them, and they are more accurate than people believe, even though we are firing that big lead projectile. So that is how we fight. We fight in big long lines for a reason. We're not insane. It's because these are not very accurate compared to modern weapons, but also they're not very reliable. I have to let a piece of rock hit a piece of steel to rain down a shower of sparks. Is it humid today?
No.
Pretty humid. Do you think that's going to matter?
Yes.
Absolutely. If it's too humid, my musket might not go off. So these are very temperamental, and my failure rate is about 1 in 5. 1 out of 5 shots does not go off. That is why we fight in lines, because if 20% of my muskets don't go off, that means 80% of my muskets are still going off. So we fight in lines for a reason, using weapons just like this.
All right, thank you, Robert Egger. Rifles. Rifles have curved lines carved inside the barrel. And short Jaeger rifles can be deadly accurate at 100 yards every single time. But you might have heard of the Kentucky or Pennsylvania long rifle. Some of these over-the-mountain men or some of these hunters, they can take a round ball, wrap the grease of their patch, pound it down to a nice tight fit, And Daniel Boone, with a Pennsylvania long rifle, could hit a turkey at 200 yards or hit a deer at 400 yards. So that does strike terror into the hearts of the British lobsterbacks up there in Boston, especially early on during this war. So rifles do exist, but rifles are a lot slower to load, and a rifle cannot take a bayonet. So if it comes to close quarters combat, that's what makes this a military-grade musket, is because this can take the bayonet. That being said, we can fight as close order infantry or regular infantry, but we can also fight as lighter infantry. Because in the Continental Line, the professional soldiers in Georgia, 8 out of every 10 companies are your regular line companies, your regular soldiers. You have 1 company of light infantry. These are men who are lighter on their feet, and they're faster, and they're more mobile, and they can fight spreading out, using the advantage of cover. But you also have 1 grenadier company. 1 company of your tallest, scariest soldiers, usually with the most experience. They are taller, literally by height. They are allowed to grow out a terrifying mustache. Not quite as terrifying as Private Eggert's mustache, but close. And they can be used as shock troops, literally throwing hand grenades about the ears of the enemy, but also as shock troops. So, since we're the Infantry Company Artillery, you might consider us more of regular infantrymen. But we'll do our best to exercise upon His Majesty's 64 manual. So, we've already heard the assembly. So, the squad of men may now fall in. And we will fall in today in 1 rank or 1 line, as we will demonstrate and show to you the manual of arms. So, attention. Rest your firelocks. Shoulder your firelocks. Now, these muskets weigh 10 pounds. And if we're on sentry or guard duty for 2 hours at a time, our musket is not allowed to touch the ground. It doesn't get in serious trouble. So it is helpful to have different positions to carry this 10-pound musket. So, to give the left arm support, squad, support your firelocks. Shoulder your firelocks. Slope your firelocks. Shoulder your firelocks. To give the left arm a rest. And to avoid low-hanging obstacles, trail your firelocks. Shoulder your firelocks. Very well. So those are just a few of the different positions. If challenging someone went on sentry duty, arm support. Shoulder your firelock. To render a salute while under arms, present your arms. Shoulder your firelocks. Well, we will now form, or rather, squad. To the front, march. Squad, halt. Now, there is a company of light infantrymen. Private load, 1, 2, 3. Lay down. Open, pan. Pan with the cartridge. Reach into the cartridge box, pull out a cartridge, which is a pre-measured amount of gunpowder and musket ball, all wrapped up inside, ready to go. We instantly tear it open with our teeth and hold the open cartridge above the pan. Prime. Pour a small amount of gunpowder into our pan. Pour too much, you might lose our eyebrows. Shut pan. Cast about. Notice you hold the musket off the ground and our left arm at our left side. Load. Pour down the rest of the gunpowder. Take our thumb to get the musket ball started. Draw your rammer. Rev that cartridge. You instantly put the rammer back, lest you forget and fire it across the battlefield at the enemy. Return your rammer. Shoulder. Now loaded or 1 shot. Well-trained soldiers should be able to fire 3 to 4 shots in 1 minute. Now that we've loaded though, there are 3 commands to fire. Those commands will be, we will not do it yet, Mr. Gentlemen. Those commands will be make ready, where we take off the safety and go to the full cock position. The next command is present. The last command will be fire. But we will save our powder because James Jackson is second in command of Captain Jonathan Bryan's company of light infantry. And in the summer of 1775, there is rumors that the British are leading a slave insurrection down the river on Tybee Island. James Jackson commands that light infantry. Light infantrymen, as I mentioned a moment ago, are men selected to be more swift on their feet, more agile, and they can fight spreading out. They can serve as a screen or a shield for the main line. So, I'll take 5 steps to the right. Private Baker, you'll stand fast. Private Eggert, 5 steps to the left. Mr. Wheeler, about 10 steps to your left, if you please. So, in open order, as skirmishers, march. Notice we can fight spreading out. Now, in this position, we can take advantage of any cover. Or if there's no cover, we can load a fire kneeling to give more protection. But from this position, we can advance and trail your firelocks. We can more easily maneuver over terrain. We can keep our eyes open for the sign of the enemy. But if we see the enemy, once we find the enemy, we then want to fix the enemy in place. The best way to make them stop is to start shooting at them. Because if we shoot at them, what are they going to do at us? They're going to shoot back at us, hopefully. We can fix them in place to give us more time to bring up more soldiers to flank the enemy. So find the enemy, fix the enemy, flank the enemy. If we all fire at once, we're all empty at once. So we will now fire in the advance. So Mr. Baker and I will serve as phalanx together, and Mr. Eggert and Mr. Wheeler. So, firing in the advance. Commence fire. So I'll fire first. Mr. Eggert will fire first. You may cover your ears for sensitive loud noises. Now, notice the loaded muskets. Mr. Wheeler is going forward as well. The loaded muskets are closest to the enemy. They are covering us as we load. And once we finish loading, we will inform our foul mate by shouting, "Ready!"
Ready.
And also, fire in the retreat! Fire in the retreat!
Ready. Ready.
Ready!
Ready.
You may fall there, Mr. Baker. You may fall back. I got you. Halt, cease fire. Halt, cease fire. Now go to the farthest point backward. Now, if we're spread out like this, though, if the enemy gives us a determined push, we're much more vulnerable. So once we found the enemy and engaged the enemy, now we wish to fight in close order to more effectively mass our firepower. You also notice how the intrepid Mr. Baker is prepared. Since his flint fell off, he's got a musket tool to get that flint secured back on. All right, so we will now form 2 ranks and form on Mr. Eggert. So we rally. Now we can fire by rank. Front rank. Make ready. Present. Fire. Whoa. Rear rank. Make ready. Present. Fire. Whoa. So we can fire by rank. We can also fire all together. Squad. Make ready. Present. Fire. Go. Right. The squad will now form 1 rank, the left face. 1 rank, right face. Now, if you can use your imagination, that if we all fire at once, all empty ones, but let's say there are 30 of me now in 1st platoon, 30 of Mr. Baker in 2nd platoon, 30 of Mr. Eggert in 3rd platoon, and 30 of Mr. Wheeler in 4th platoon. And when we bring up our main line of battle, instead of firing 1 rank at a time, we can have 2 ranks of 30 men fire. Then as they load, then the next 30 platoon can fire. So we now represent a company of 4 platoons. We're going to fire by platoon. Company, fire by platoon. First platoon, make ready. Present, fire. Third platoon, make ready. Present, fire. Second platoon, make ready. Present, fire. Fourth platoon, make ready. Present, fire. First platoon, make ready. Present, fire. So we can. Squad. The squad will now form 2 ranks. Squad, 2 ranks, left face. 2 ranks, right face. So, that gives you an idea of how we can fire by platoons. Squad, we can now advance upon the enemy. To the front, at the right oblique, march. Squad, halt. Squad, make ready. Present, fire. So, once we use musketry to soften up the enemy, shoulder your firelocks. We can now receive the command to fix weapon of decision. Squad, fix your bayonets. Shoulder your firelocks. Rear rank will remain at arms port when we charge bayonets. We can now advance forward upon the enemy. Squad, to the front, march. Keep our alignment. We can also maneuver. So squad, right heel, march. As it goes on the enemy, to the front, march. Charge your bayonets. Huzzah! March right at the enemy. Squad, halt. Shoulder your firelocks. Squad, in one rank, front face. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we want to now show you, or we wish to now thank you for joining us. Yes, it was a long 10 minutes to sit there in the shade, watching us out here sweating profusely on this parade. And if you were to touch any one of our barrels right now, you could well nigh burn your hands. These barrels get extremely hot with that amount of fire. And if nothing else, hopefully you better appreciate the tremendous amount of skill and teamwork that it takes to fight, risking your life on the field of battle with this type of technology. As Mr. Eggert alluded to earlier, these men are not lunatics. They're doing the best they can due to the very challenging conditions and technology equipment that they have. So hopefully you can see how we can fight spreading out, see how we can fight together, we can maneuver, change direction, and use the bayonet. So the last thing we're now going to do is render salute under arms. And as we present our arms, we recognize the fact that we are standing in the footsteps the soldiers who served here defending Savannah, not only at the Mud Fort in 1777, but also here on the parade of the oldest standing brick fort in Georgia, when the Star Spangled Banner, like you see behind you, flew over this fort in the War of 1812, and we had soldiers from the South and the North who served here during our American Civil War. So as we render the salute, we want to salute them, as this is Memorial Day. We want to remember what our freedom costs, remember those who've given their lives. Defense of our Constitution, every blessing of liberty we're able to enjoy. So squad, present your arms. Shoulder your arms. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, with that, in about 5 minutes or so, we'll keep watch downriver. We're expecting the Georgia Queen riverboat to come past the Mud Fort here in 1777. We have orders to make sure that we can, today, we're going to be saluting the Georgia Queen as we fire that 6-pounder cannon. So we're going to march outside to the cannon in about 5 to 10 minutes. Please listen for the music for that. Hope you enjoy that cannon firing. We have some more presentations as well. So we thank you for joining us. Attention! Squad! To the right wheel, march! Right, march! Squad, halt! Squad, one right, right face! Squad, to the front, march! 5 thoughts left, march! March, shot Jackson, forever. Squad, ranks, lock, Jackson, liberty, forever. So, the morning of January 17, 1781, when the American soldiers wake up, they're a little cold, but they get food in their belly, they've had some sleep, and they know exactly what's expected of them. So a breathless rider will gallop into the American camp, saying, the British are coming, they're behind me. 1,100 redcoats against 1,100 Americans. As the British march up, James Jackson is out there in the front lines, and he is there and helps give orders to fire. As the British march up, though, they halt, and the British give a mighty huzzah, or a halloo, a British cheer, to intimidate many of these militiamen. When this happens, General Morgan tells his men, they give us the British halloo, let's give them an Indian war whoop. And so the American forces will give what's sometimes known as a rebel yell. A mix between a fox hunt yip and a banshee squawk, a war whoop. So if the Americans give their war whoop, the British start marching forward. The militiamen open fire. So, Mr. Edgar, if you can fire just one shot, if you please, fall back. Once you fire 2 shots, short feet, and fall back to the second line of riflemen. So now you've got twice as many skirmishers out front there. Mr. Baker, if you can please fire. So these men, firing with deadly accuracy. They stagger the British. The British will then halt. The British will then fix their bayonets. And as the British start advancing, James Jackson's out front there, exhorting these men. Give me one more shot, lads. Give me one more shot, one more shot. So as the British advance with their bayonets, they then give receive command to make ready. Fire. Now, thankfully, fire, they have orders to fall back to the left. They fall back to the left. As they fall Alright, so they cover your ears, so they give one more final volley. Five. Right, ready. 3, set. 5. Well, that was 1. I had 3 muskets at fire. That's why we fired a volley. This can happen in battle. 5. Right, ready. 3, set. 5. Alright, hands. Rest, fire up. Shoulder, fire up. Right heel, lock. Take their hump. You will now salute under arms. Spud, present your arms. Shoulder your arms. Squad, you may fall out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, thanks very much. Join now.